Hello, everybody, and you're very welcome into UCN, or University Centre Newbury, and Code Institute's webinar. Now, my name is Dara O'Tuma, and over the next, let's say, 40 to 50 minutes, I'll be the host of this event. And in a moment, I'm going to introduce our guests who are in the room here with me. Now, before I introduce them, just a couple of things to do with maybe housekeeping. First off, to let you know, I am working from home at the moment, as is everyone, I think, in this room at the moment, despite the wonderful backgrounds that you see there in front of you. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is on occasion, internet may have a mishap, and Lee Lindsay, who's one of my guests, will know to fill in for me if that happens on my end, and I'll do the same vice versa. So everything's covered there. The other thing as well, folks, if you have any questions or anything like that, please send them in. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, I really do hope that you enjoyed this event. Okay, so I'd like to welcome into the room my guests. First off, we have Victoria Nazareth, who is a marketing executive with UCN. Victoria, you're very welcome into the room. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I love the background. Very nicely done. It's great to see the logos in the background as well, which is always nice. And of course, as well as that, I want to welcome into the room the head of digital higher education provision, and that's Sandra Taylor. Sandra, you're very welcome, and it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
And it's great to see the mics are working as well. And then finally, I'd like to welcome in Lee Lindsay of Code Institute. Lee, how are you keeping?
Hi, Dara. How are you? I'm very well. Pleased to be here.
I'm delighted to hear that. Right, folks, what we're going to cover today. First off, we're going to have a look at an introduction to Code Institute and the UCN itself, and we're going to talk a bit about the partnership between the two. Then we're going to give you, I suppose, an image of the coding industry. So why would you study web development? And we're going to look into, I suppose, the opportunities that are available to people with these skills. Then we're going to look at the qualification itself. So what is this diploma in web development? What's that all about? What level is it on, etc. Then we're going to look at course details. Okay, so we're going to look at what you're going to learn, which is fantastic. But as well as that, we're going to look at other things like the supports that are available and how you will be helped through the program itself. And I suppose a lot of the hard work that you're going to do yourself to get through the program itself. And then at the end, we're going to go through some questions and answers as well. So first off, I'm going to welcome into the room Sandra Taylor. Sandra, could you give us a little bit of background regarding University Centre Newbury, please?
The University Centre Newbury is basically set up to be the higher education leg of the Newbury College. So we deal with everything that is basically level 4, that's HNC, HND and degree. That's what we deal with. So we'll also deal with apprenticeships. We've got a university partnerships with Northampton and Bucks, I believe. We've got employer relationships, obviously, because we've got our apprenticeships there as well. And we also deal basically in adult learning. So
fantastic. All the right notes being hit there. And Lee Lindsay, if you could give us a small bit of background regarding Code Institute itself, and if you could maybe talk us through, I suppose, any type of partnership between us and UCN.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My pleasure, Dara. So Code Institute, as the name on the tin suggests, we're all about training people in software development. In fact, we'll touch on this in a little bit more detail, but our whole reason for existing is because of a thing called the digital skills gap. Effectively, in the digital space, there's a dearth of talent. The throughput from traditional academic routes, your 3-4 year qualification cycle, it isn't quick enough. So what we've done is we've devised a way of training people, equipping them with the skills that employers want for the roles that exist right now. And we do that through a number of different types of partnerships. Firstly, you'll see on the screen there a thing called industry-led, IAC. So we work very closely with industry leaders across different sectors, people like MasterCard, PayPal, Accenture, Salesforce, also startups. We build consensus in terms of what employers want in terms of the digital skills, specifically software development, and then we tailor our curriculum around that. And that means that, you know, learners on our programs, they gain skills that employers actively seek and want. My own focus within Code Institute is working with colleges and universities, specifically within the UK, and that's why we've working with UCN to bring you this new level 5 qualification in web application development. UCN will take the lead. They will be center stage. Learners on program will be students of UCN, but you will enjoy all of the different supports that you'll learn more about very shortly. The Code Institute supply and offer to help learners make that journey to being a software developer all the smoother and more engaging.
Lee, thanks for that. One thing I really like is that IAC part, Industry Advisory Council. So effectively, when Code Institute sat down to develop the program itself, it wasn't a case of here, let's just throw together a program around web development. It was more a case of let's find out what's actually needed within web development, because the options are vast there itself. Okay, moving on to the next slide itself, Lee, you mentioned the digital skills gap. Could you paint a bit of a picture to us or for us as to what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose if you, like this has been going on 20 years. You know, if you look at workforce reports from the turn of the millennium, I love that expression. Software developers were the most in-demand job back then. Little has changed. Rates of change within technology mean that industry and employers are always struggling to keep up. Even the way that we're communicating here today, this wonderful means of communication that has helped us all through the pandemic. Digital transformation means that digital talent is in huge demand. You see there the figures from the World Economic Forum in terms of their projections for 2025. The data that you see in these reports, the numbers will always vary slightly. Microsoft have one that says it's 150 million, 98 million, but the numbers are gargantuan wherever you look. And that's really because the demand is huge and the talent simply isn't there. And with that scarcity, I suppose comes a huge opportunity for prospective learners. Careers in digital are all the more attractive. And our aim at Code Institute is to make the transition into these digital roles as smooth and as easy as possible, as mentioned, with by supplying the skills that employers specifically want.
Yeah, regarding the skills gap itself, Lee, you'll know this over the years, and Sandra and Victoria, just a bit of background on myself. Over the years, I've gone out and I've had the pleasure of meeting audiences in London, in Stockholm, in Amsterdam, places like that, where I'd go out and meet, I suppose, prospective students and explain to them what our program's all about. And I used to talk often about the digital skills gap. And at the time, it was pre-2020. There was no COVID-19, no lockdowns, nothing like that. And I was free in a room talking to people, meeting them face to face. It was marvelous. I remember those good old days. But one of the things about it was when I went out there talking about the digital skills gap, at the stage, we were talking about a gap of 700,000 within Europe itself. But then comes along COVID-19. And as Lee mentioned there, yes, everything's changed. I mean, for example, I'm not meeting you in person right now. Well, I am. I'm meeting you in the new in person. But I suppose we all turned to technology, and businesses that wanted to keep their doors open during various lockdowns, furloughs, what have you, they had to turn to technical or to digital within a very short space of time and effectively reimagine their business for today's world. The numbers shot up dramatically. This report, Lee, that you have in front of you here from the World Economic Forum, that was released in October 2020. So it took into mind all of this information about COVID-19, and it just accelerated automation. It just shows how fast technology accelerated. It was always going to be big. We knew that before COVID-19, but then it was just forced into this rush that happened in front of us. Moving on from that, I'm going to introduce Victoria into the room. Victoria, I want you to tell us a little bit more about the team who will be delivering this through UCN itself.
Yes, of course. So we've got Sandra on the call with us today. She is our head of digital studies and technology. So she will be your point of contact via the UCN for the web application course. We have Shelley Van Meter. She's unfortunately been able to join us today, but she is the head of the UCN. So she looks after us all and looks after the Institute. And then we have Maria Corona, who she's our administrator who looks after all our admissions. So she will be your point of contact after you have completed the coding challenge and decided to sign up with us and complete the course.
Okay, fantastic. So there's a nice team there to meet you on the way. Lee, I'm going to bring you back in and let's talk about, okay, so somebody comes, and often I'm asked this question, usually it comes from maybe a career change or an upskiller, and they ask, what type of salaries can I expect if I move to web development? Now, I'm just going to throw in just a little bit extra onto that. Many of the career changers I speak to, they speak to me about their barriers, what's in the way of a career change itself, and often salary comes up. So can you give us an idea as to what type of salaries people can expect if they become web developers?
Yes. So I mentioned the scarcity before, and as is always the case with supply and demand, the scarcity sets price at a premium, and that is very much the case within the digital space when it comes to talent. So organizations, not only are they crying out to hire talent, they're striving to keep talent as well. That has two implications. Firstly, careers within digital and software development, rates of pay tend to be significantly higher than they would be in other sectors. It also means that the rate of progression tends to be faster as well, because organizations, they want to keep the talent that they have, keep them engaged and keep them motivated. I know personally, even family members who work as software developers and who progress very, very rapidly within their careers. The data you see on screen there is taken from Morgan McKinley, and I know University Centre Newbury, you're based kind of there southwest of London. So this data is relevant to what developers specifically in and around the London area can expect. And as you can see, junior developer entry level, typically around 40K. You could expect to hit mid-level, realistically within 2 years. 2 to 3 years would be your ballpark. And then beyond that, the sky's the limit. And as is always the case with salaries, how much you earn often comes down to your own ability to negotiate, present yourself with your employer. We have a career services team that actually help cultivate those soft skills where you're able to, I suppose, sell yourself and market yourself in a really effective way, not just when you're getting the job, but in presenting your skills and making a case for your own true value.
And one thing I would say as well, right? So I'm a big fan, Lee, of the haggle. I think it's a great idea when you're going in looking for a job. Like, you are worth something, and you're always able to ask. And if you don't ask, you don't get. But one thing I will say, you talk about the rise through the ranks, and just to warn any student who's contemplating becoming a web developer, you still have to work hard to actually rise through those ranks. It's not just a given. You're a web developer. Okay, I'll be a junior or a meteor developer within 2 years and a senior within 3. No, you got to work hard. And one piece of advice I often give people, and I'm sure University Centre Newbury will agree with me, you should always be learning. Always be learning. And I suppose that's one of the main reasons why so many people are here with us today. Okay, moving on from that. Lee, I'm going to ask you to bring us through the program itself. Sandra and Victoria, I do have plenty of questions to ask you now in a moment. But Lee, I just want you to maybe paint a picture as to what a student would learn doing this program itself, please.
Yeah, I think some context is important. You see at the top there, it says qualification structures. This is a level 5 diploma in web application development, but the discipline taught within it is full stack development. And the reason we teach, or the reason we espouse full stack development, is if you look at the workforce reports that I've referred to that talk about software development being the most in-demand job, within the world of software development, full stack developers are I suppose they are the ones that are most sought after by organizations, particularly startups. And there's a simple reason. They can treat all aspects of the modern stack. Part of the reason, that's one of the main reasons we teach it, is because it increases employability. But also, a lot of you will be career changers. And this is almost a choose your own adventure. As you engage with this program, you'll engage with front-end development, which is what you see. Think of an application or a website that you really enjoy using. It's visually pleasurable to look at. It's intuitive to navigate. You'll want to use it again and again. And that's what front-end development constitutes. Then you have back-end development. And back-end development is really the rule set that drives the application forward. If I do this, then what happens within the application? It's the logic, it's the algorithms that underpin it. Then you have the full stack element, the third element. And within full stack, it's all about integrations. You can create an application, but in today's world, it's only truly useful if it's able to talk to other entities, booking systems, reservation systems, payment systems, social media. So we knit all of that together. And this really is a journey of self-discovery. We give you all of the knowledge for each of those different elements. And then graduates of the program, they tend to specialize. Some think, well, I'm going to go down the front end route, others back end, others full stack. And you see the program structure there. So there's 2 front-end units, user-centric front-end development and interactive front-end development. At the end of each, you complete a project that contributes towards your overall grade. There's no exams on this, and I think that's an important point to touch upon. Then within back-end development, we teach you Python, MySQL, and MongoDB, and that's all about the databases and how you structure the back end of a website. Then lastly, we go into full stack. But one very important point to stress is this is a level 5 qualification. You see that module at the top left, the coding fundamentals. No previous experience is required to succeed on this program. We do begin with the fundamentals. You can come in having just left school. You can come in having previously done a degree, or you from any different type of background. We really do begin from step 0, and we bring you through the coding fundamentals, which I always liken to the times tables. And then on that foundation, we then bring you into the more complex aspects of the program.
Very good, Lee. Well, one thing I will say there, you mentioned times tables, and often when I'm talking about the program, I'm often asked about maths, right? And one thing I will say is you don't have to be a genius in math either to I suppose make your way through it. One of the biggest things that a person needs before they do a program like this, in my view, and once again, Sandra and Victoria, maybe you agree with me here with your own experience. It's problem solving abilities. You need to be a problem solver before you sit down to do something like this. Sandra, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Most of the problems that we have out there at the moment that have got to be solved via code, it is because there's a need for it. There was originally a problem that you have to solve. You've just got to figure how you're going to solve it. And this program is absolutely fantastic for giving you, as Lee said, from the ground up. You've got absolutely everything inside there, which is why I love this program so much. But yeah.
Okay, now let's see, let's move on to the next one here. Okay, how you're going to learn, Lee. So we've had a look at what you're going to learn on the program itself. Could you bring us through, I suppose, how actually, Sandra, I'll bring you in on this one. How will a student learn on the program?
Basically, it's all online. With the Code Institute, it's all online, and you're going to be using their platform, their infrastructure to be able to learn. But then at the same time, you've got them plus us that are watching you and coaching you throughout your whole journey. It's really as fast as you're going, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, and Lee, the LMS itself, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Or learning management system. I have to assume that me just throwing out letters out there makes no sense. So the LMS, or learning management system itself, could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we're incredibly proud of it. I joined in 2017, and it's gone through 3 iterations. You know, we take a great deal of pride in the learning design. You see there the screen behind. I hope that everyone watching can agree it is clear, clean, and well laid out. The whole idea with the way that we teach, it's about bite-sized learning. We never want to overwhelm anyone who is learning. All of our concepts are introduced the exact same way. There are 3 key questions at the outset. What is this? What does it do? And how do I use it? Within a sentence to 2 sentences, those 3 questions are answered. This means that when you're learning, every single concept, no matter how basic or how advanced, you will have a clear, concise idea of the idea at hand before you then deepen your knowledge in a short video. Videos are usually 7 to 8 minutes in length, where we walk you through the best practice, how to use it, functionality, things to look out for. And then the most important element, and this is what you'll find on this program, is it's all about the practice. It's all about the implementation. So once we impart the knowledge, we then give you an example that you can break or tweak or play around with, or we give you a challenge where you have to go off and hand code something yourself. And as you work through each of the modules and units, we eventually consolidate the knowledge, where we get you to put together mini projects. And the mini projects show you what the structure of a project is, so that you're well equipped to design your own projects on which you're ultimately assessed in order to earn your diploma. And skipping slightly ahead, Dara, one of the best ways to actually see and experience our learning management system is to engage with a coding challenge, because the experience on the coding challenge is identical to what you will experience on program.
Lee, you're letting the cat out of the bag. We're supposed to hold on to that for a little bit later on the event. One bit of advice I'll offer all students on this program. You can do this program using one computer. Now, it must be a computer, cannot be done on a tablet, okay? It must be a computer. I always advise to people, and if you could see my office here at the moment, I have a large screen here and a large screen here, okay? My advice to anyone doing this program is the second screen is always advantageous. It's advantageous. It's not to say you can't do it with just one screen. My advice though is always use two. I love that. If I could get a third and a fourth screen, I'd get a third and a fourth screen, but unfortunately my budget does not stretch that far. Okay, moving on from that, regarding support. Okay, so folks, one thing I will say, it's not an easy program. Education involves, and it's a good thing, involves learning and actually putting in some graft, and it involves, I suppose, putting your mind into it, staying focused, staying motivated, and all those other things. However, having support along the way is always a good thing. So let's start off with UCN support. I'll bring it over to you, Sandra or Victoria, either one, if you could bring us through the journey of support itself from UCN.
Victoria, I'll let you have that one.
Okay, so obviously, as Dara's explained, the Code Institute you'll see their platform. They will also be helping you coach through, but you will also have the support from the UCN as well. This will be, so any questions, any help you need along the way, they're always going to be there to help you, kind of hold your hand through it, coach you as we've explained. So when you first enroll onto the program, this particular one starts in September. We will do a program induction with you. So we will go through what to expect, when we're going to be completing different modules, all those different kind of things. We will teach you different workshops. We'll also do this in partnership with the Code Institution as well. We will help you with your assessments. We will make sure that you're going to be getting the best possible mark that you can achieve. We'll also provide you with feedback as well. So if there's a particular area you're struggling with, or if you're doing it extremely well with, we will provide that feedback back to you. And at the same time, we will help you coach you through that either tricky phase or help you excel in an area that you're excelling in. At the end of all this, you're going to come out with a level 5 diploma, and I think, as Dara's explained, a lot of employers see that as a great advantage when employing you. It's a great trait to have.
Thank you very much for that, Victoria. And the other thing as well, because you're mentioning employers, I think it's important to say as well, when you're working on this program, as Lee mentioned earlier on, there's no exams. Okay. Personally, I find exams quite difficult, but I know there's a lot of people who actually enjoy that. I'm not one of them. But I love the fact that you work on 5 major projects throughout the program itself. Okay. And when you are talking to an employer, not only do you have a level 5 diploma, but you've actually got a portfolio of ready-made projects that you're able to show off how good you are problem solving, how good you are thinking outside the box, how good you are at code, how good you are breaking code, fixing code, all those different things as well that are extremely important to today's workforce. Regarding support from Code Institute itself, Lee, could you bring us through what support Code Institute will bring into the journey too?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure, Dara. So the whole journey, whenever you look at the supports from both Code Institute and UCN, it really is, it's the strengths and expertise of 2 organizations that are helping you, and I suppose I say your journey to becoming a software developer, you're treated like a software developer from the moment you come on to this program. So as mentioned, UCN will be managing your journey. I think that the bottom tile there is a little misleading. The financial advice and anything to do with, I suppose, if you're going via the learner loan route or administration, all of that's with UCN. Ourselves at Code Institute, you log on to our platform, and on our platform, we have a bunch of support laced around it that outside your time with UCN, we're there to support you. So you have student care. Student care are there to make sure that you have access to the program, that you understand where to find supports, that you understand how to use the different tools around the LMS, because you'll have your development environment. There's a communication tool called Slack that I'll tell you more about in a moment, and all kinds of other different things. You need to use and engage with all of these things, and that will make it a much richer and better experience for you. As you're working, we have immediate academic supports that are available around the clock. Chief among them is tutoring. So from Monday to Friday, 24 hours per day, you can push a button within our platform and you can speak to one of our tutors. Our tutors will coach you into becoming a better problem solver. We don't give you the answer explicitly, but they will put you on the right path. They'll help shape your thinking. I always say a good way of thinking about it is, if you've forgotten a semicolon on line 37, they won't tell you put a semicolon on line 37. they will tell you, have you checked that you've closed off all your operators? And the idea here is they're putting you into the rigor of thinking like a software developer so that you become better at approaching the problems. You also have access to a mentor. So these projects that you're tasked with, tutors are there for the day-to-day, mentors are there for the big picture. These projects, we want to make sure that you don't go and try and build Amazon Web Services. So mentors are there to keep your feet in the ground, help you scope your projects. Outside of that, and this is where we really encourage learners to engage with community, because it's a social learning experience. You deepen your own learning by trying to help other people and impart the knowledge that you've gained. So our community at any given point, we have learners from all over the world. There's maybe 500 or 600 people active at any time, and it's a really rich and fun place to learn. So aside from the learning aspect, it is social, it is fun. People go there, they have a virtual presence, like a virtual campus. And then of course, I've mentioned the career aspect, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail shortly. But aside from all these technical skills, it is vital that you cultivate the soft skills that really help you navigate the job market that little bit more effectively.
One thing I'll add about the community you mentioned, it's like a virtual campus or an online campus. I couldn't agree more, first off, but to me, it's one of the most important thing, because everyone who's in that online community has been in or is in the same boat as you. They're learning the same things. And it's great to be able to impart the knowledge you have, but it's also great to be able to ask for help. And I highly recommend anyone who does our program become part of that community, because it's a wonderful resource. I used to describe it as the college canteen or the university canteen. I'd walk in, be like, guys, I'm stuck on a project. Can you help me out? Well, this is it in an online forum. And we use what's called Slack to actually go through that. Okay, so you mentioned careers there a moment ago, Lee, and you said you go into a little bit more detail. So here's your chance. Tell us a little bit more about the career services.
I realize we're time bound as well, so I'll try and be a little bit more brief. So a big part of the career development aspect is learning how to build your LinkedIn profile, learning how to present your portfolio, learning interview skills. So we coach you in all of these different things. We have a lady called Jane Gormley that heads up our employer services team, and they help you with all those different elements. And today, on Thursdays and Fridays, they have 2 events that are absolutely fantastic. So Jane and the team typically engage with you after your first project, but there are open events for careers on Thursdays and Fridays. On Thursdays, we have employers come and talk to us about their work culture, the hiring process that they have. And this is a great opportunity to find out how you would go about getting a job at any one of those organizations you may see there, PayPal or Accenture. What is their hiring process like? How many interviews involved? What are the things that people in talent acquisition there? What are they really looking for? And then on top of that, they have an open clinic on Friday afternoons where you can come and ask them questions. You know, if you have questions about your future career, or you want advice and guidance in terms of what your next steps may be, you can. They have that for you on Friday afternoons. And the career development piece is as important as the skills development piece.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, so now it's time to move on to funding and finance and things like that. So Victoria, I'm going to bring you in on this one, if that's okay. Could you tell us how, I suppose, how the program can be funded, the costs, etc.?
Yeah, so the course fees for this particular course are $5,421. You can either self-fund that yourself if you have the funds available. If not, you can fund it via a student loan. We do have a team at the UCN who will be able to help you with that, so they can offer financial advice. Also, they can help you talk to the student's loan company and give you information on how to apply for one if you need to.
Okay, fantastic. And we're going to get to, I suppose, the application process shortly. So how people can get in touch to find out more about help and things like that of actually getting funding. Moving on from that, Sandra, I'm going to bring you in here, if that's okay. Regarding the schedule itself, could you bring us through the schedule journey?
I basically see this as you're working in your own time. So yes, it is a part-time schedule, but you are working as fast as you're able to go. So it can take longer if it needed to be. But to be honest, you're working with your projects and everything else like that, and we are estimating it should be about 40 weeks long, which, as it says there, it's 15 hours minimum that you need to be putting in. So as much as you're doing your work that you've got there, you've got background work that you need to be you know, the reading, the coding and everything else like that. You need to put in the work to be able to actually get something meaningful out of this. As we said, you've got the personalized journey, but it is flexible. So even if you've lagged behind maybe 1 week, you can catch up. You're not penalized for this. So it is as a work as you go, but yeah.
Fantastic. And look, the advice, and I see the asterisks on the screen there. My screen's over here. See that second screen? So the asterisk is there, 15-hour minimum per week. So best practice is do at least 15 hours per week in this. But as Sandra rightly said, if you drop back 1 week, you can catch up the following week, or however that goes. And when you speak to student care that Lee spoke about a little bit earlier on, they'll help you create a personalized schedule that will take you through this journey in the best possible way that suits your own schedule. However, you'd have to try get this done throughout 40 weeks itself. Okay, the application process. I suppose either Victoria or Sandra, if either of you could bring us through the application process itself. And Victoria, you mentioned a little bit earlier on, I suppose, assistance regarding funding and things like that. So if you could give mention to that as well, please.
I'll take the beginning of that, I suppose, and then I'll let you have the rest, Victoria.
Thank you, Sandra.
I suppose for me, it really starts with the coding challenge that Lee has mentioned. For me, that is the real beginning, because from there you'll get a feel of the course. You'll see if this is actually for you and whether this is the right fit, I suppose. And then once you've completed the coding challenge, that's when we get your details and everything, and we can process it, which is Victoria.
Yeah, so once we've received your details, they'll be passed on to our administration, our admissions team, and they will process your application. They will arrange potentially an interview or chat with Sandra. Once that's all been done and we've sorted out your funding, so we know how you're going to be funding the course, either like we've just touched on briefly in the previous slide, via a student loan or self-funded, then once that's all sorted, you're on the course, and we will send you all the details of when it's starting, what you need, all that kind of information, once we've been through that enrollment process.
That's absolutely fantastic, and it sounds quite simple. So folks, if you want to find out more about the program, go through the application process and you'll be halfway there. But remember, just get in touch and see what you can do. Lee, Lindsay, I'm going to bring you back. A couple of people have let the cat out of the bag by this stage regarding the coding challenge. So could you bring us through the details of the 5-step coding challenge itself, please, Lee?
Yeah, thanks, Dara. As Sandra just mentioned, really the coding challenge is a litmus test for you as someone thinking about doing this program, whether it's for you. Software development isn't a career for everyone. You don't need previous knowledge. We do teach from the ground up, as we mentioned earlier, but it's also really important, vitally important, that you enjoy this mode, this style of learning, because you have the supports from UCN, but you're also self-regulating your own study. You're using the Code Institute platform for your curriculum and for, I suppose, the majority of guiding and steering your learning journey. So it's really important that you like the way that we do things as well. You like the way we lay out information. You like the style of teaching that we present. Coding Challenge lets you evaluate all of these things. It gives you exposure to 3 languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which will be the backbone of your journey in front-end development. And through that process, it should take maybe between 3 and 5 hours in total. And once you've completed it, you will be able to honestly reckon with yourself whether this is a path for you or not.
Fantastic, and my apologies, I think I went back a slide there. My mouse is a bit trigger happy here, but folks, yes, the 5-step coding challenge, it's completely worth it, and I suppose after 5 steps you'll have built your first ever web page as well. It shows you whether or not you have that aptitude. Okay, so I'm going to go into a quick recap as to what we spoke about today. Okay, so first off, we're talking now about a regulated qualification, okay? And what that means is going to be level 5 diploma in web application development, okay? Learner loan funded. So you can pay for this program yourself, as mentioned earlier on by Victoria, but as well as that, you can also get in touch with UCN and find out more about any funding that may be available to you. And I highly advise you get in touch. In terms of flexible learning, this is a 40-week program, okay? It requires a minimum of 15 hours per week. But as Sandra correctly pointed out there earlier on, you're working to your own schedule. You can work on a schedule with student care in advance, and they will give you best practice to get through the program in as swift a manner as possible that suits your own timetable. However, if you happen to drop back a week, you can always catch up. It's not like you have to be in a lecture at 9 o'clock in the morning and have to have something done for the next day. There will be deadlines. That's absolutely to be expected. This is a course with standards on it, etc. However, there is a lot of flexibility in there to get those deadlines met. And world-class support, as mentioned by, and I'm after moving along here, no, I haven't yet. World-class support, as mentioned by Lee, as mentioned by Sandra and Victoria. There is plenty of support available between weekly sessions, mentors, tutors, Slack community, student care, career services, and much, much more. Okay, I've already gone ahead to the final slide there. So I'm just going to ask a few general questions, if that's okay. First off, Sandra, I'm going to go to you. And I'm sorry, there's been no rehearsal of this or anything like that in advance. Could you tell us a little bit more about the qualification itself, please?
Oh, the qualification. I suppose it's a level 5. So if you think it's past your A levels, it's one up from the HNC. So that's a higher national certificate. It's on par with the second year of a degree. That's where it's actually leveled out. That's what it is. I think it's absolutely fantastic because you can come in without a level 3 or a level 4. You can come in just having shown that you've got the aptitude for this particular program, and you can jump straight on to a higher level qualification. So yeah, that's that.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Lee Lindsay, computer type. What type of computer are we looking at here?
So I think you touched on it, Dara, actually through the course of the slides. You can use any type of computer. You can use a traditional desktop, you can use a laptop, you can use a Mac, you can use Windows, you can use Linux. Any device that runs a modern browser that is equipped with a keyboard would be suitable. We don't recommend using a tablet even if you have one of the external keyboard things. I think you mentioned screen sizes, like having a relatively large screen size is important, and ideally 2 screens. You don't need 2 screens. A normal laptop will absolutely suffice, but everything is within the browser. That means there's no supplementary software. When you enroll to the program, you can absolutely access everything through Chrome, through Firefox, through Opera, through whatever your favorite modern browser is.
Okay, Lee, and final question to you is, how do people get in touch? How can people apply to the program itself? So
there's a couple of ways that you can do that, but the number one way after watching this is through the coding challenge, as Sandra mentioned. So there is an accompanying link where you can register to the coding challenge. Also, the program is listed on the UCN website, and you can get directly in touch with Sandra, who heads up the program, and make your queries with her about enrollment. We'll be really happy to set you on the journey. As mentioned, step number 1, do the coding challenge, find out if it's for you. If it is, boom, formalize the application, and then Victoria will help you with the rest of the journey.
Fantastically, Lindsay, thank you so much. Victoria Nazareth and Sandra Taylor of University Centre Newbury, or UCN, thank you so much for taking part in today's event. Yeah. And Lee Lindsay of Code Institute, thank you so much. Okay, so all of you who have tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. And one thing I will say is apply to the program, take part. All the best, folks. Bye.